Hi guys, welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about how you can own and radiate your own powerful feminine energy at work. This is going to be a useful video for you regardless of your gender, because there are toxic traits regardless of where you fall across the gender spectrum. And we have all heard of that person who says something absolutely ridiculous like, oh, I hate working with women because they are this, that, or the other. But I'll tell you this, my worst boss was a woman, as was my best boss. That myth about women being difficult, tricky to work with has been debunked so many times. And in fact, I don't even understand why we still have to talk about this in this day and age. If you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Dels. I'm a lawyer, international business strategist, and career coach who is passionate about helping high achievers to transition into work that they love anywhere in the world. If that sounds like something that you'd be into, and if you're the type of person that likes to up level, move up that career ladder on your own terms, like, comment, and engage throughout this video. However, it would be wrong for me to pretend as though there's no negative stereotypes attached to whether you fall on the male spectrum or the female spectrum. Unfortunately, if you work in a toxic environment, you might recognize some of these typically negative masculine traits, such as overt competitiveness, being too stressy, overly demanding, being a taker without giving much in return. Most of us have been there, especially if you work in the corporate space. And I remember when I first joined my first ever proper law firm where I worked in, I turned up, and there's a video about this from 8 years ago. I'm so happy that I recorded this. I turned up in a pink jacket and I felt like, that was my personality. You guys have probably gathered right now that I'm very type A, and I have so many of those typically masculine traits that growing up so many people, including my family, tried to really iron out of me, because women are meant to be soft, feminine, or whatever. But I had this masculine side, and I also have this feminine side that I have grown to embrace and own. In fact, I take so much value, pleasure, and strength from being a feminine woman. So on the first day of work, I was like, I'm wearing this pink jacket. Pink is my favorite color. And what? I am a lawyer who wears pink. And what? Legally blonde? I'm not blonde, but hey ho. So I turned up to work in this pink jacket with my makeup done, and I felt really confident, right? Because that's what happens when you know that you look good. And the first thing someone said to me, I'm not going to reveal this person's gender, but you can imagine, is like, oh, you look nice, but I give you a month to survive looking like that. And I'm like, excuse me? I worked hard to get to where I am right now, and I will show you that I will still be here many, many years from now. And that really took me aback, and it made me feel like it's not my fault that life has gotten to you this intensely. However, as I continue to move up the corporate ladder, I noticed that so many women are taught to diminish their intrinsic femininity and embrace some of these masculine behaviors in order to move up the ladder. And I'm telling you that that doesn't have to be necessary. So in order for you to really thrive in confidence in yourself, and knowing that just because you look a certain way or you do certain things doesn't mean that you're not clever, doesn't mean that you don't know your stuff, here is what you need to do. In order to thrive at work while feeling confident in your femininity and knowing that you can move up that career ladder based on your merit and your worth and what you contribute to the team, I strongly encourage you to be powerful in knowing yourself. Know what your core skills are, know what your strengths are, and sell them. You don't need to always announce them at the rooftop like that abrasive person that we all know in the office. However, there's ways that you can really promote yourself while being collaborative as well. And one of the easiest ways to do this is when you've worked on a project and you are reporting to senior leadership or other stakeholders in the business about the outcome of that, be sure to highlight what you did in that. And this is a big mistake that I have so many of my clients who are trying to chase promotions talk about. They're always talking about we, right? But if you pay attention to some of those masculine energies that seem to just be propelling up the career ladder at work and not really doing much, is because they make sure that everybody in the office knows what they've done, whether it's true or not. So I feel like you can embrace some of that by being confident and almost patting yourself on the back, right? If you do a good job, give yourself credit for that, and also highlight it to people that matter But this is where the feminine energy comes in. You can do this at the same time as being collaborative and recognizing other people that contributed to the success of the project that you worked on. There's nothing more irritating than spending hours, days, months working on a project as a team, and then one person, usually the manager or some loudmouth on the team, decides to take credit for everything. And throughout my career, I have made sure that I track every single thing that I do at work that is of value. I make sure that it's reported in my appraisal. I don't know what you guys call it in the US, but the annual assessments that you do. And I make sure that it's highlighted and the people that matter know about what I've done. So you can really be powerful. You can speak up about yourself, but you can also be collaborative and recognize the efforts of others in getting you there. I don't think that this is hard, and that's why it's so irritating when I see other people try to just diminish everyone else in order to push themselves forward. It can work for a time, but it doesn't have longevity, and at some point people will drag you back down to earth. The next way to embrace and radiate your feminine energy at work is to dress the way you want to dress. I remember when I first became a lawyer, the perception was that you had to dress in a gray, black, or navy blue skirt, suit, or trouser suit, or in a certain way to be taken seriously. And to a certain extent, yes, you should conform to the norms of your industry. However, I think all of this should not be at the detriment of your own personal style and the stuff that makes you feel comfortable. So if you need inspiration, go on YouTube to find fashionable corporate wear that you like, if that's something that's relevant in your industry. Some other industries don't require you to be stiff and rigid in the way that you turn up to work. So I think it's very, very important for you when you wake up in the morning, put in that effort to yourself. It doesn't mean that you have to put on makeup and all of that stuff if it's not your jam, but really take care of yourself. I think that that nurturing energy is something that's known to be feminine. So, embrace that. Make sure that you are confident and happy in the way that you look. And I know that as someone who used to work for very, very long hours, like 16, 17 hours, I always felt worse if I turned up to the office looking like a cat dragged me in through the cat flap than if I took that extra 10 minutes, even if it was just to freshen up, do my makeup, and just make myself look comfortable, because I felt like it gave me a chance to still be me, even though I was caught up in this corporate space, and the masculine energy of working hard to make sure that a project is completed on time. Another typically feminine trait that we all need to make sure that we embrace and nurture is empathy. I cannot tell you how important this is, especially if you're someone who aspires to be or is already in a leadership position. Trust me, you will get more out of your team if they know that you see them and that you understand them and that you are empathetic. Let's face it, in certain industries like startups or really fast-moving spaces like banking, law, consulting, or anything like that where you have really, really tight timelines to deliver certain things, it is tough. Because people are working very, very hard. They're getting burnt out and they're really, really going, sometimes working late into the night, long hours in order to achieve certain deadlines. And I find that when you work with a boss who feels collaborative, like I mentioned before, someone who sees you and someone who's empathetic, it makes you feel not so bad working on those types of deals. I remember one partner that I worked for, it's a man actually, in one of the law firms that I worked for before. I will never forget this, and I have such a good relationship with him now. He is super senior. I'm talking managing partner level. But we were working on this project that it had been going on for months. It was Christmas and I was tired. I'd done weekends, long hours, everything, you name it. And I was just broken. And one thing I remember about this guy is that he would always walk past my office and be like, thanks, you're still here. It's 10 p.m. Whatever you're working on, thank you for doing it. We ended up working on this really time-sensitive project for just 1 week, again, between the Christmas and New Year's break. And at one point he said to me, you know what? I'm going to do this. Guys, I'm telling you, the stuff he took off me is something that a junior could have done. To the extent that the clients were emailing and saying, why is this partner sending out this very basic document? Are you okay? Because everyone expected that I would do it. That's the way these transactions work. But for a partner to recognize that we are all in this together and to really speak and not just pay lip service to the whole, we're a team, is just something that I will never forget. And I remember when I went home that evening and I slept, I was so grateful and thankful to him. And till I left that firm, If he asked me to do anything, whatever time he asked, I would do it. And not just out of fear, because obviously when you're in a law firm, you have to do what you're told, but because I felt like he saw me as a human and not another cog in the machine. And this is something that I think that we should all embrace. This feminine energy of being empathetic, seeing people for who they are, recognizing when they're going through a tough time, being nurturing. Of course, you know, it is a business at the end of the day and business needs must be met, but you get so much more out of the people that you work with if you are able to see them. One of the biggest myths about feminine energy is that vulnerability means weakness and that women in the workplace are typically very sensitive. All of that is crap. You know, all of us are sensitive about certain things. It depends on your nature. I think that there is power in being vulnerable because it allows you to kind of connect with people, whether that's your clients, whether that's your other team members, etc. But if you're that person who always pretends like everything is okay, people will see this facade that you put up instead of the real you. And I think that in embracing your femininity and being vulnerable, it also means being able to say no. This is a point that a lot of people, especially women in the workplace, struggle with. You feel like you have to say yes to everything just because someone asked. And at the end of the day, it never looks good on you because you have all of these things on your plate and it's unlikely that you'll be able to deliver them on time or to the best quality. So I found one of the first things that I learned, and I don't remember who told me this actually, is to be confident in saying no in the workplace. And when you do this, the way that you frame it is you always let the person that has asked you to do something know what's on your plate, let them know your timelines. If you can shift things around, of course do that. But if it's not feasible, then make sure that you communicate this, and to the extent that you can push back, push back. Again, when we think about masculine energies in the workplace, there's always going to be that person who's like, oh, I'm so busy. But yet you go downstairs and they're at a bar having a drink and trying to pretend that no one's seen them. Like, do you guys know who I'm talking about? They exist in nearly every workplace. I think in all of the companies that I've worked in, there's always that person who's like, oh, I'm too busy. I've got all of these things on, but like they aren't actually that busy. Being vulnerable, being open, and being able to say no are things that you can tap into in order to really succeed in the workplace. The last way to tap into your feminine energy that I'm going to share kind of follows off from my last point, and it's all about listening and not speaking just for the sake of speaking. I find that sometimes in the workplace, it's like a battle of the masculine energies, right? And, you know, in the law firms, we used to call it swinging. And that essentially means it's like there's all these people in a sword fight and everyone's trying to be the first person or the loudest person to be heard, and nothing actually gets done. You don't have any constructive outcome and you keep having meeting after meeting to rehash the same point. However, if you are able to be one of those people who listens and processes before jumping in to say something, whatever you say will have a lot more value and hit home a lot quicker than when you just speak just for the sake of getting your voice heard. And this is an art that I teach my clients based on my experiences in multiple corporate spaces, that there is value in hitting the point succinctly rather than just talking as soon as a question is heard. Honestly, I feel like you make more of an impact. And if you're a woman, you know, typically we're the minority in the workplace. And if you're that person that someone assumes that maybe you're the secretary or something when you're in a meeting with all men, and you let everybody do all of their swinging and you speak up with something of immense credibility and value, everyone at that table will remember you. And I found that this is something that happened to me on a lot of the transactions that I worked on. It allowed me to build relationships with clients from certain Middle Eastern countries where typically women were not the drivers of transactions. And in my experience, learning the art of just listening before you speak up and then delivering epic value is something that will definitely serve you well throughout your career. Let me know which one of these feminine traits that you are going to use and own at work. And also comment below about which positive masculine traits you also use every day in order to succeed at work. Maybe I'll do another video highlighting some of those masculine traits that I use, but in the meantime, I'd love to hear your thoughts. See you in the next video. Toodles.